Hello and welcome to another macro video. I get the feeling that some of you can see the advantage of using macros, but you're really not quite sure where and how to get started. The problem is that there's just too much material. So let me start by explaining why there is so much material. I have explained on another video my background, but I'll just do a bit of it here. Just over 12 years ago, I started freelance editing full time. I was close to bankruptcy, and so I needed to increase my income rapidly. So I was well motivated. Before that, for over 20 years, I had been in the habit of writing little basic programs to manipulate text. But then when I got onto Microsoft Word, I had better facilities with Visual Basic. Add to that the fact that I'm an obsessive problem solver, always wanting to do things more efficiently, and the result of that was that I've developed hundreds of macros over that 12 years and managed to double my hourly rate in that time. So there's loads of macros there, way too many. That's good news for me, but the problem for you is that there are too many macros there. There's the book, which has got well over 600 macros in it and more waiting to be put in when I've got time. I've added into the book some introductions about the whole idea of macros and tried to give recommendations. And the book is now 110,000 words, and that's just the text, not the macros themselves. But again, writing written explanations are not the best, so I thought about doing videos. Of course, there's the Fredit package, which is a separate item. It's not in the book, so that's another 20,000 words, and the library of Fredit items that you can use. So oh yes, and the macro starter pack was another thing which I introduced to try to make things easier for people to get started. So I decided that if I could actually show you on screen these things happening, it would be better than you sitting there reading things in a book. Unfortunately, in the last year or so, I've produced a total of 66 videos, and that's almost exactly 10 hours of watching time. So where do you start with the videos? Well, the solution is this video. What I'm going to try and do is to introduce you to the videos, and there's the videos which introduce you to the macros. So let's have a go and see how we get on. So our title is macros, where the heck do I start? And I'm going to make these, that's actually wrong, just correct it while I'm here. It's right down the bottom. I'm going to make these notes available on as a Word file on my website, and I'll give you that URL again later in the video, because I'm going to be telling you about YouTube videos, and rather than you trying to copy down off the screen the URLs, you can pick them up from the Word file. There's the book with available from the website as well. And so what have we got in the way of videos? Let's open this up a bit more. Right, that's better. Okay, so we've got a video I produced recently called What is a Macro? The idea being to introduce you to the whole concept of what a macro is when we're talking about editing, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what macros are, or perhaps more so what macros can be, what you can do with macros. You can use very simple macros, but then the kind of macros that I'm producing allow you to do quite complex things as well as simple things. So that's a good starter to give you an idea of what a macro is, and then to actually get you started producing, or rather putting macros into your computer, because you're not going to generate macros, you're going to just use ones which have already been written waiting for you to use. A couple of videos about that. Then, as I mentioned, the macro starter pack. that gives you 18 useful macros to get started with, and you just have to follow the 6 hopefully very simple instructions and you'll have 18 macros ready to use straight away. If you are fiction editors, then this is a bit of an aside for you. There are 3 videos which might help you because some of the things that you do are quite different from what others of us do. I'm a technical editor, and so prompted by some folk doing fiction editing, I've written some macros specifically for fiction editing, and those are available on those videos. So you say to me, am I going to cope with all this? It's all very complicated. Well, yes, okay, there is a degree of complication, but the question is, how well motivated are you? Do you really want to increase your hourly rates and produce a better job for your clients? Okay, so what I'm going to say is that there are 2 different levels at which you can use macros, or the 2 different types of macros. There are some which would be helpful in preparing a style sheet, and all they will do will analyze the text before that you've got there ready to be edited. They will not change the text, and you do not need to change your way of working, your pattern of work. You simply use the macros to analyze the text, which gives you information for your style sheet, and it could be equally applicable to doing proofreading. These are what I call my analysis macros. So that's one level. Then the real powerhouse level is what I've called level 2, where you're actually using the macro to change some things about the text. That's when it gets more dangerous, but that's when it gets more powerful. And it will, for the best effect, it will require you to change to some extent the way you work. But you don't have to do it all at once. You can gradually build up using these macros and changing the way you work. So the level 1 type macros are ones where we're setting up a style sheet, and I've put a sample style sheet in my book in case it's of any use to you. So here are 4 suggestions of the macros that you might use to do assessment, and there are videos that go along with those. But then as we go to the level 2, the core of that way of working is global find and replace, or rather scripted global find and replace, producing a list of things that you want to change on each chapter file of a book as you're working through. And that concept is a new one to learn, but that if you want to get that extra power, then that's what you'll need to do. So we've got level 1, preparing style sheets, and for that we've got I've suggested proper noun lies. There's a video specifically about that, and one about hyphen lies, and the first few minutes of this video here, book editing, will help you with the Docker lies and so on, and the spelling one you'll find on that video there. So you do that, and then I ask you, are you willing to go further into level 2 videos, or level 2 macros rather? So if so, we'll look at some videos for that. So I'm thinking about books because you can use level 2 macros on smaller documents, but they come into their own, particularly when you're doing books. But I suppose also they're useful if you're doing, say, a series of papers for a journal, because you do the same sort of things. There are common things that you can do for each paper as it comes in, and you can do those globally to save you time. But book editing is the main thing. There's a couple of videos about book editing, and then when it comes to Fredit itself, there are 14 macros about sorry, that's the wrong word, isn't it? 14 videos even 14 videos about Fredit. So with those you can start slowly. Don't go through all the videos and try to do everything at once. Just use some of the facilities of Fredit, gain some time. As you use them, gain confidence, and that will allow you to use more of the facilities of Fredit. So I'm not going to stop on each of these, but they start from the level of part 0, Fredit for beginners, and then I've done one recently where people are saying that Fredit doesn't work when they first try and load it in. So part 1, 2, 3, all the way through, loads of them there, but these are going to be on the file that you can download, so you can have a look at those. So beyond Fredit, I just suggest now a few more macros that you might need or that you might be able to use, but it does depend on the way you work and your style as to what you will find helpful. And out of the 600 macros, there are going to be some hopefully that will be useful to the way you work, but if not, come back to me and tell me what sort of things you're trying to achieve, and we'll see if we can do some more macros specifically for your way of working. Multi-switch is a very important one, so this video enables you to sort of go as it were from Fredit to multi-switch and see how that works. More about spelling, more on multi-switch. Multi-switch and Fredit are the two most used macros for me. Line editing, in other words, as you're reading through the text you make changes, and there's loads of macros that will speed up that process and not only speed you up but also allow you to keep your focus on the meaning flow of the sentence rather than being distracted by making spelling changes and hyphenation changes and punctuation changes, to focus on the words. So there's more of those, and we've got finally we've got some on handling multiple documents, because if you've got a book which is made up of several chapters, then you're going to want to combine those and be able to look at the book as a whole, and also with multiple documents it's useful to be able to compare 2 or 3 versions of a file and see what's going on. There's loads of stuff available, but these are just a few that I've come up with as possible starters, as it were. Well, I think that's more than enough for now. You've got, if I expand this, you've got the URL for the book there. We've got a video list, so that if there is some particular thing that you want to find out about and find out whether I've done a video about it, then if you download the macro name video list, that's actually a list of the videos, but it includes the names of the macros. So if you want to know if there's something about Dockerlize, you can look it up on there. And if you are actually somebody who likes to have written information, then there is a file here called Beginners Start Here. So you want to start up, you want to read something, you can download that file. All it is an extract of various bits out of my book, but it's all in one file, so it makes it easier to focus on just that bit of text. And then finally this file here with all these URLs for the YouTube videos is available at this URL here, and as you can see it's my website, archivepub/documents/howtheheck, as in how the heck am I going to get started. Okay, thanks for listening.